Just want to remind you guys, this episode is presented by Prize Picks. Download the app today. Use the code JUICE to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice. Of course, your guys, Cody and Derek, back with another one, guys. Well, hey, guys, the Indianapolis Colts, when finishing the 2024 season, it was very obvious there was going to be a lot of changes that needed to happen on the defensive side of the ball, specifically in the secondary. And in today's video, I want to kind of talk about this idea of how the Indianapolis Colts took what's probably their biggest weakness in 2024 and during the first part of free agency have potentially turned that biggest weakness into one of their greatest strengths on defense. So I'm excited to talk about this one. If you guys haven't already, be sure to smash that like button, hit subscribe, turn on the notification bell, all that good stuff. Guys, we're about a month away from the draft still, so we got some content to talk about here. Again, this is right now not even to April yet, so some other moves could happen, but Derek, on the first day of legal tampering, the Indianapolis Colts, they went out and they addressed the secondary in a big way. And they signed two players. First off, Cameron Bynum, the free safety from the Minnesota Vikings, who came off a career year. He had multiple games where he was a very, very elite defender and a young guy coming in to the Indianapolis Colts secondary. The Colts needed a major upgrade at that free safety position. And they also went and signed cornerback Charvarius Ward, who was formerly of the San Francisco 49ers, who was an All-Pro in 2023. And Derek, when you look at this Indianapolis Colts defense from a year ago, I mean, so many categories that you look at and you just shake your head. I mean, the Colts, 24th in points allowed, 29th in yards allowed, 26th in passing yards allowed. They were 19th in touchdowns allowed. And it just seemed like every single notable stat, I mean, even yards per attempt, Derek, the Colts were very poor. They were so poor at stopping the pass in so many different ways. And even when they had a couple games there where they actually were doing something well, it just felt like time and time again, this secondary continued to let this team down. Again, you know, there was some problems with the scheme. Absolutely, there were some problems with the scheme with what Gus Bradley was doing. But on the whole, Derek, this secondary, it seemed like it just lacked a lot of notable talent on it, right? There was just a lot of ways that the Indianapolis Colts did not really add a lot of talent in there. I mean, they did not address it at all in the 2024 offseason. They basically just ran it back with that exact same unit. And the results were pretty much the same, if not worse, in 2024 than they were in 2023. So the Indianapolis Colts go out this offseason and they sign those two players. They bring them into their team. And you look at it now and you say, oh my goodness, like as bad as the secondary was a year ago, to bring in two pretty young ascending players, like guys that have been there and proven that they can be really solid to elite players at their positions. I mean, it's crazy how the Colts went out and not just addressed it in one move, but they went out and addressed it in two pretty notable swings here to add to this defensive roster, to add first-year defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo's defense. What are your thoughts just how the Colts almost like flip-flop their approach in the secondary from 2024 to this year?
Well, I think it goes back even before making the moves for Cameron Bynum and Charvarius Ward as well. I think it started with Ballard and Steichen getting rid of Gus Bradley in the first place. Again, what we know from Gus Bradley, his system really depends on the players that you put in front of him. And, you know, the Indianapolis Colts, kudos to Ballard now for actually doing a lot more of what it takes. But before, I mean, we'll give Gus Bradley the benefit of the doubt. Most of the time, he didn't have the playmakers, especially in the secondary, to run the kind of scheme that he wanted to, right? But also the other aspect to it is the scheme that you ran with Gus Bradley. It's not a great scheme for the way NFL offenses run things today. I know that Gus Bradley 5 to 7 years ago, you talk about the Legion of Boom, it was about almost 10 years ago now. But I mean, even then, you talk about the defenses that were, the way teams ran their offenses then, even to now, things have changed so much. These teams dink and dunk with these passes and these formations so much now. You have to be adaptive. You have to be creative. You have to change things up, and you have to be more aggressive on defense. Sure, being aggressive can get you killed in some ways, but if you're also smart when being aggressive, you can be able to do a lot of great things and force a lot of turnovers. And it just wasn't the type of deal that the Indianapolis Colts went to. But I think getting a defensive coordinator like a Lou Anarumo that is a little bit more creative in how he approaches the defense makes a lot more sense for the kind of defense that matters. Because again, like you said, this defense was so bad for the last few years at everything. Being able to stop the run, being able to stop the pass, being able to stop touchdowns, the yards per attempt, the yards after catch, everything was just terrible. And fundamentals as well was just not something the Colts had. And now you have approached this from a different manner. And you and I have talked about it in a previous video when we talked about the philosophy changes and how things are different now with Ballard and how he's already approached this offseason being way more aggressive. Cody, I'm sure you've seen it, and maybe, I don't know if Colts fans have seen it or not. Some of you probably have. Charvarius Ward was on 1070 The Fan the other day, and they were asking him about what made him change to go or want to be a Colt, basically. And he was talking about how the Saints were going to get me. Like, the Saints were coming to get me, and I thought for sure I was going to be a Saint because my group and I were talking about it. We were thinking, oh, I'm going to be a Saint.
And it's like his hometown. Like, it's not too far from where he grew up.
Yeah, exactly. And then he said at the last second, Ballard came in, swooped in, and said, no, we're going to give you this to make sure you come in because we want you. And Charvarius Ward changed his mind. And, that's what's the crazy part of this, Cody, is, this whole philosophy change for Ballard. Like, it usually has been the exact opposite happening to Ballard in years past. And now all of a sudden he's become that more aggressive guy to bring in the players that made people like Charvarius Ward feel wanted in Indianapolis. And that's very rare that we've seen that from that. So yeah, Ballard made these guys buy in to what Ballard wanted to do. So it was very different than in years past. And, what the actual moves mean themselves, I mean, no doubt it changes the feel of this defense now because you have a situation now, Cody, where you have a secondary that can put guys on islands and they have no problems with that. They can do that. And this Indianapolis Colts defense, Cody, again, I go back to 2022. Sure, that 2022 team was terrible. I get it. But that defense wasn't bad that year, Cody. That defense was almost a top 10 defense in a lot of metrics, especially in scoring defense, because they had, in particular, there was one thing that stood out. Stephon Gilmore that year was locked down. He shut down the one side of the field in the secondary, and they had to go to attack the other side. And if you were able to put some more help on that side, and you were able to make quarterbacks think just for a second longer that the throw they want to make is not there, the defensive line gets to you, and then it causes problems. So I'm hoping that's what happens this year, is that secondary with Bynum and Charvarius Ward stepping in, if they know what they're doing and they can help lock things down, we have a situation where this defensive line can start creating a lot more havoc. As we said, guys, today's episode is sponsored by Prize Picks. Now, what is Prize Picks? Prize Picks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. Instead of
battling against thousands of other players across platforms. You're basically picking 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you're choosing more or less on those stat projections to be able to watch those winnings roll in. It's very easy. Do you guys want to play along at some of Prize Picks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and UFC fighter Sugar Sean O'Malley? Well, if you guys sign up today, you can find the community plays under the promos tab of the app to view the entries of some of the biggest names on the platform and be a part of that as well. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000 just like that with NBA, NHL, and college basketball entries today on Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. Like a lot of other things, guys, they also offer injury insurance, so your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. So if someone exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player projection won't count against you and the rest of your entry stays live. So it's great bounce back for that one. What I love about the app as well, guys, is it's not just sports like NBA, NHL, football, and tennis, and baseball, and all these other things, but there's also a lot of others that go into it as well. If you like to place entries on video game situations like Call of Duty, CS2, Apex, if that's something that appeals to you, there's a wide variety of sports and video games and everything else that you can place entries on. And I love how expansive it is. Even just looking at the NBA, there's entries you can make with turnovers, with points. You can do combo deals, dunks, field goals attempted, all of these different things. So there's just so many different ways to make money off of these entries. Be sure to download the app today and use the code JUICE to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup.
I heard the same or very similar sentiments from Cameron Bynum when they were asking him, what, how did it happen that you became a Colt? He said, the Colts were very aggressive. Like they came and got me, right? They made it clear they wanted me on their team. So that's just a welcome change, right, from Chris Ballard, because Derek, last year the Colts were that close to getting Danielle Hunter and they didn't seal the deal. They didn't do what it takes to get him, right? And again, a hometown situation. But if the Colts, you just think if the Colts would have done what they did this year, I have no doubt in my mind, Derek, that he would have been an Indianapolis Colt right now.
Yeah.
I do believe that. But again, it's water under the bridge now. It didn't happen. But you see the approach here, the change, the aggressiveness, all that stuff. It's massive, right? It's massive. And again, we talked about, like Gus Bradley had his issues. He was not a good defensive coordinator. I personally think he's one of the worst coordinators in football. I do. But you didn't give him any realistic help on defense. So It was like a bad coordinator with bad personnel, and it just obviously didn't work out, right? The bad scheme and not having that true lockdown corner, not having a free safety that you can trust to, number one, be out there, and number two, play at a high level for 17 games consistently. But they have those guys now that have been pretty healthy, that have been very consistent. So, yeah, it's just crazy to me, the absolute staunch difference that the Indianapolis Colts have taken this year and what their secondary is going to look like this year compared to even last year, right? Because you still have largely the same unit you had last year, but now you've upped the ante, right? You've really now added so much more to the ceiling of this group by adding 2 very high-level players to your secondary that are clearly the best players in their room. No doubt about that, right? So it's definitely very exciting if you're looking at this Colts defense and what they could do here in 2025. And Derek, I think another thing is just the confidence that these 2 guys ooze and that they're going to bring to this defense. It's massive. Charvarius Ward, I got to say, man, when listening to his introductory press conference, when listening to him on JMV, when listening to him just overall, this dude exudes confidence. Yes. It's not like this cockiness. It's this confidence. He's like, I know I'm a good player.
Yeah.
And I just like, how infectious is that to have those 2 guys, in that secondary that know they're good players and they're going to demand the best out of everybody else in that room.
And
that stuff's huge.
And the best aspect of it, in my perspective, is you look at Charvarius Ward and you look at Cameron Bynum, you know they're the number ones now, Cody. So the best part is that last year you had second year or rookie players being asked to take on the best players of the other team, right? And they were not ready for that moment. They weren't ready for it. Now, they don't have to take on the best aspect of the team. They don't have to be. Charvarius Ward is now going to follow the best wide receiver on the opposing team all the time. So now Jalen Jones is not stuck having to guard Devontae Adams, having to guard Mike Evans, not having to guard all of these guys because, again, I really like Jalen Jones, but Jalen Jones is not matching up against all pros. He's just not that good. I apologize for it, but he is. He's just not that good. And that's the great aspect about that now. And Cameron Bynum as well, you can utilize him in a lot of different aspects than what you could with a Julian Blackmon, what you could do with the guys before Nick Cross and all these other things. So that's the great part about this now is these young guys in this secondary, they can lean on guys like Cameron Bynum and Charvarius Ward. They know that they're not going to be put in a position they can't handle. So now you're putting your second best guys on their second best, on the opponent's second best guys. And that's going to be so much more helpful this year because the matchup makes more sense.
No doubt. I mean, it's going to be huge. And how big is it going to be also, Derek, to not just have these guys for 1 year? Because as good as Stephon Gilmore was, he was only here for 1 year.
Yeah. Right.
As good as, insert whoever else you want to insert. We'll talk about like even Rodney McLeod. He was great for the one season was here, but only here for 1 year. Like these guys are here for the next 3 and 4 years. Like they're under contract with this team for the next number of years. So that's impressive as well, just to have guys that are going to be, helping these young guys for not just 2025, but for 2026, 2027, and potentially later on. That's massive. That's huge to have guys like that, right? Some mentor figures in this secondary. I mean, Kenny Moore as well, having him in that room. I mean, can you imagine how valuable that's going to be for Jalen Jones? How valuable that's going to be for Juju Brents even? Like some of those young corners, and if you add one in the draft even, how impactful that will be to have players that have been there and done that. Like that's going to be massive. Now you have, Derek, 2 guys that are Pro Bowl and all-pro players at their respective positions at that cornerback position. That is crazy. Like you haven't had that in a long time. I mean, not 2 guys that are going to be here for the next number of years.
Not since the last time he went to a Super Bowl.
It's been a while, dude.
It's been a minute. It's been a while.
It has. And this is probably the best secondary I think the Colts have had in a long time on paper. I mean, really.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting to see how, honestly, I don't know. It's interesting to see how much the Colts have done for this unit and how much talent is on this defense now on that secondary and just how much of a massive upgrade it's been. It blows my mind.
And again, I think it also comes back to Lou Anarumo as well, because, you can't just get any 2 great players and then expect them to work with any defensive coordinator. I mean, they very well could, but with Lou Anarumo and what he wants to do, Cody, I think there's going to be a lot less zone than what the Indianapolis Colts fans are used to seeing. So when you have a guy like a Charvarius Ward that can be that man-to-man guy the majority of the time, and you can put him on an island and you don't have to worry about what other people are doing a lot of the time, then that's a great advantage for a defensive coordinator that's trying to implement schemes to work for the rest of the guys. And, Cameron Bynum, I think you can utilize him in a couple different ways. He can guard man-to-man. He can be that zone guy that covers a particular scheme that they want to do. But, it all comes down to Lou Anarumo, and I think it's going to be fantastic to see what these 2 guys are going to do for us.
Yeah, just the disguises, the things that you just didn't do on defense the last couple of years. You're not just going to play straight up like you have. Like you're actually going to be a little bit more exotic, a little bit more unpredictable on defense. You're not just going to be like, hey, this is what our defense is, go beat us. That's what basically the Colts did
Right.
You're going to, with Lou Anarumo, you're actually going to have a guy that's going to tailor the game plan to specific players and to specific teams. And that's going to be big. Now that you have some of the personnel in there as well, I mean, that's just going to be so helpful to have both, right? To have a guy that has had success against really good elite quarterbacks. I mean, we saw what his defense did when they had Jesse Bates, when they had some of those guys on defense. Like, they actually had some pretty good success against some really good quarterbacks. So you're not going to, hopefully, I mean, from what we've seen, hopefully you're not going to have the Mac Jones situations, right? Or I don't even know, throwing other guys, these backup quarterbacks that are shredding you. You're not going to have that as much because now you actually have the coach that's going to scheme up a little bit more, not going to be so easy to game plan for. And also you're going to have some players who are going to make it a lot easier on him as well as a coordinator. So, yeah, man, it's very exciting to see what this unit's going to be like, and certainly raises the ceiling of this group tenfold from where it was a year ago. So really excited to see, man, what happens with this group.
Yep, absolutely. Well, I think that's going to do it for this one, guys. Again, leave us your thoughts in the comments. What's your guys' thoughts on how the Colts have gone from what seemingly looked like their biggest weakness in the offseason to now looking potentially like a strength going into 2025? But thank you guys again so much for all the support. Greatly appreciated. And as always, guys, go Colts.